Welcome to This is WholeLife, a podcast from the WholeLife Church in Orlando, Florida.
Join me, Ken Wetmore, lead pastor, and Melanie Bockmann, our worship pastor, along with our communication team, Randy and Lucas. Take a look back, a look deeper, and a peek into the week ahead.
Here we explore meaningful conversations about spirituality, community, and living with purpose.
We don't have all the answers, but we are walking the journey together.
Wherever you're listening from, you're wanted here.
This is WholeLife.
Hey everyone, it's episode 525 of This is WholeLife, where, as always, we ask you to get out your proverbial, your fictional, or your sort of shovels and dig a little bit deeper with us each week. This week, we are digging into a message by the one and the only, joining us here across the table to my left, Melanie Bockmann, our worship pastor. Ken Wetmore is back, even though he was missing in action this weekend, but he was paying attention. I heard he tuned in second service?
I did. I watched second service.
Okay.
Well, I mean, after the fact, I watched it online today.
He was kind of busy during that
You know what?
section of
I
time.
think we should start
Just
changing.
because I wasn't preaching here doesn't mean that
Your
you
presence
said
was
missing
gone.
in action. I was actually preaching at another church,
really?
co-preaching with Rochelle. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you were just along for the. I didn't know you were like participating.
Yeah, Rochelle let me have a part in her sermon at the
Nice.
Ocala church
Oh.
up in
Rochelle.
Ocala. Yeah,
Rochelle.
it was great.
That was nice.
It was fun.
All right. Is that online somewhere?
It is,
Can we
yeah.
share it? Can you send me the link?
Of course, if you want to.
All right. We're going to put that in today's Slack and the show notes because I can put a link in the show notes. We'll take care of that. Speaking of podcast and show notes and things of such, a major milestone passed us on May the 16th.
May the 16th.
It was our 10-year anniversary of the podcast.
Oh, wow.
Our episode 1, whose title I had to go back and check because I couldn't remember, was entitled Respect.
Oh.
May 18th, 2016 was our first year in business, as it were. And I'm going to put this in the chat.
So we've been going for 10% of the church's life.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive considering it's 100 years.
There we
Look
are.
how fast I did that math.
We had to throw that one in.
Impressive.
Yeah. Even you and I's math skills can live
Here's
up to
looking
that
at
one,
you,
huh?
brother. Here's looking at you. All right. And then this is, I thought you guys might find this interesting. I will also put this in the Slack channel, but this is a promo that I made. It's a screenshot of Final Cut Pro. And this was, at that time, it was the FHC Podcast Network. And it shows a picture, the screen or the placement of the playhead was Jeff and Andy in our old little, it was Megan's office at the time, and it was packed with boxes, floor to ceiling.
Check that
And
out.
it was right before, after Father's Day, there was extra dad's root beer cases, like 100 of them stacked.
Speaking of which, do we have any left over from this year?
We do.
Do we? I didn't get one.
And for a small fee.
I didn't see any in the refrigerator. Just saying.
A small fee. I will pay that fee. Okay, and then since it was the 10th anniversary, that was serendipitous timing, or maybe you could say this was holy timing, depending on how you see things of that nature. But I was contacted about a week ago by the Signal Podcast Awards, and they wanted to know if they wanted to, first off, they wanted to find out more about our show. Anyway, the person I actually was talking to, I believe it was the CEO of the awards, and then the person that's in charge of all the entries, she put me in touch with her, and we had a whole week of conversations. And by the end of it, she said, "So are you going to enter the show?" And I'm like, "I don't know, $350. I'm not sure. Maybe another time. We're just, whatever. It'd be cool, but And she's like, "I noticed that your show wasn't monetized and there's no ads. And has it ever been monetized?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "All right, hold on. I'll email you back." So she went and talked to the team, and that sounds like I'm supposed to hear back at any moment that they have scholarships available for non-monetized shows. And so they are putting us in for one of those scholarships so we don't have to pay to enter. And we're going to be entered into the religion and spirituality genre. And so in the non-monetized category. And so we'll see what happens if we'll win an award.
Huh.
And it'd be nice to, and they reached out to us. So I thought that was kind of cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So the Signal Awards are real quickly, they recognize the podcasts that define culture. Their awards body is mission focused on uplifting the podcast medium by recognizing the most potent, meaningful, and unprecedented audio projects being made today. And so,
Well, that's definitely us.
yeah, that's what I said. I mean,
100%. I mean, just send us the award now.
yeah, I don't, sure, absolutely. I guess it's up to this group
The word
called,
potent was what gave it away.
yeah. The setting the standard of excellence is the Signal Awards Judging Academy. So, guys, if you're listening, we know that you're an esteemed collective made up of the architects, instigators, trailblazers of the medium, and so go ahead and put us out there. We'd love to. We'd love to have a Signal Award on our shelf here.
Yeah,
in the studio. So
that'd be amazing.
Yeah. So anyway,
good job, Randy.
Yeah. Well, I just they reached out. I always consider it every year, and then I'm like, I don't know, do I? We've got other things to spend money on, right? And then to pat ourselves on the back. But
now that I'm thinking about it, though, so Signal would be amazing. What about, do the Grammys have a podcast award in the Grammys? Is that
Shoot for the stars, Ken. Shoot
yeah,
for the stars.
well, I guess I'll Lucas, can you double check on
I
that?
mean, I'd rather
I'll
have the
check.
Signal award just in case Signal people are listening.
Of
I'd rather
course.
have that. But I mean, if we're going to put in for awards, I mean,
I'll take Melanie's award if that's
Great.
what, I mean, if there is such a thing.
Absolutely.
I might take that in front of all of them, to be honest. I mean,
Oh, I'm sure I can
Just-
come up with something.
could you?
Yeah.
Could you? You know what? And I bet you could even fabricate a killer trophy,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Absolutely. It'd be kind of short, but
Oh my goodness. Wow.
it'd be a killer for sure. A potent killer.
Sure.
It doesn't sound any better when you add adjectives to it, Ken.
It would be a compact.
Oh, wow. All right. So
Okay, all right.
I don't know what category we'd be in the brief but potent category. What are we judging here? I don't know.
I'll tell you who just lost an award in the Melanies.
Probably. Okay. Well, if you have something to add to that podcast at WholeLife.church, that would be awesome. All right. We did get an email, and this came in. So quickly, this is going to be on our June 20th message because we taped that during between services. So we had an email and a text. So we'll hit those real quick and we'll clean those up. This is from Nate. And this was in the Slack. He said, I'm struck by Hezekiah's drifting from God, illness and subsequent healing. I wonder about the link between Hezekiah's desire to keep living and Manasseh's kingly behavior. Is this an example of parental selfish behavior impacting their children? Does God's temporary healing of Hezekiah also predict Manasseh's downfall?
Ooh. Nate, that's some deep questions there, man.
I know. I was like, wow, Nate's been dropping the bombs in the Slack channel.
In the spirit of the sermon that we had this sermon, is it okay if we just say those are really great questions? I don't know. That's but they're fun. I think they're fun to think about.
Yeah.
I think that when I was researching the sermon, one of the topics of kind of discussion in the communities that talk about these things was it in Hezekiah's best interest to be healed?
Okay.
In other words, like, would it have been better for him when God said you're going to die, say, thy will be done, and just go with it instead of begging to be healed? I think that's one of those questions that's a really fun discussion back and forth, but I don't know that it really is going to have any answers. And to the point that you have, I would say just about every action that we have here on earth has some kind of repercussion to it. So almost certainly Hezekiah's healing would have had some kind of repercussion on Manasseh's kingship. Was it positive? Was it negative? Hard to say, I think. But what I do think, I think the thing that always has bothered me about Hezekiah is called a good king. And who am I to argue with that? But one of the things that really bothers me about Hezekiah is that Hezekiah was just totally okay with bad things happening to his grandchildren, as long as it didn't happen during his lifetime. The Bible literally records that when he shows off all of everything he has to these Babylonian envoys that come to Jerusalem. And God's not happy with it for him. The prophet shows up and says, you shouldn't have done that. And because you did that, your grandchildren are going to go into captivity in the nation that you showed all your stuff off to. And the Bible records that Hezekiah says, well, may the Lord's will be done, because he thought to himself, at least it is not during my lifetime. And I really don't like that. I really don't like that. It really, really bothers me a lot, because I think that that's such a, I don't know if it's, maybe it hits close to home. I feel like sometimes that with human beings that we're so that way. It's like, well, as long as I get to have a good life, whatever happens to my grandkids, that's their problem, or their great grandkids. And, we can see that with policy decisions in whatever country you live in. Are the policies aimed at having a country that's stronger in 50 or 100 years, or are they aimed at getting somebody reelected this year? With no real particular regard to what the long-term impact will be. And it really bugs me. I think I'm very idealistic on this, but I just feel like when you make policy decisions, it should be for the best good of the long term. And if that means some short-term hurt for you, it's better for you to do that than to put long-term hurt on your children or grandchildren, great-grandchildren. There's I think the guy who founded Patagonia, he wrote a biography, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head right now. And I think it's in that biography where I think I mentioned this in a sermon a while back. But he talks about a culture that's based off of Native American culture, where they thought about the decisions that they make today, how that will impact 7 generations from now. And so when they're making the plan, it isn't about what's best for right now. It's what's best for 7 generations from now. And in the story of Hezekiah, it really seems like Hezekiah did not do that at all. And I think that kind of selfishness, because that's what that is maybe what could have had an impact on Manasseh.
We've been talking a lot lately about how the Bible doesn't always explain things. It doesn't give details outside of what the audience that the writers were writing to specifically would already understand and have knowledge of. And it just seems weird that they give Hezekiah's inner thought process. Let the will of the Lord be done. Everyone agrees and claps their hands. Well, I mean, so what's the difference? I'm not going to be around. Nobody knows that unless they include it. And in a situation like that, it just seems kind of odd that they added it, but maybe also a fun fact to go don't let this happen to you guys.
Well, he must have said it out loud at some point if somebody wrote it down.
Well, that must be true.
Or it was, conjecture on their part. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, cool. All right. We did get an email. Greetings, Whole Life podcast crew. Dr. Melanie Bockmann's message was most excellent.
Most excellent.
It warmed my soul. Carolina Dave.
I love that. Thank you, Carolina Dave.
Exactly. All right. Now, here's a text message that came. Do you want to read this one? This is the one that, didn't you get that podcast? You asked me not to. It's in the green there.
Oh.
You asked me not to forget. And
yes,
I think
from Anonymous. It came in as a text message. It said, the closing prayer that Ken had the congregation read was written by someone who had no knowledge of the life of Jesus. This makes his prayer understandable in its vision of a wrathful and angry God. And in fairness, this would have been the same God of Manasseh's understanding. However, how might our prayer be different in both content and approach, since we now see the gracious and accepting character of God in Jesus?
Yeah. I definitely, when I read that prayer, there were parts of it that didn't ring true for me either, but I still thought it was interesting, and I think it was a fun thing to look at. And so what parts didn't ring true to me? The part where it says that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were sinless, that they were that, repentance is for sinners, not Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but sinners like me.
But sinners rest, yeah.
But what I thought was interesting is if you're looking at it like from the context of this being Manasseh's prayer, I don't know if maybe I'm the only one, but I've had those kind of prayers before. I'm like, look, I know that I'm not great like so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, but hey, I could really use, and in the rearview mirror, maybe. But anyway, my point is, it's an interesting. I think that there's a lot to be read in there that's a little bit different. It's definitely written from a different perspective, and yet there's prayers that are inside the Bible in the Old Testament, and there are things that are in the New Testament that when I read them, sometimes I'm like, I don't know if that's the way, the way I would view God. And I know that sounds a little scary. It's like, well, it's Scripture. It's written a certain way. Well, you can't help if you read through the book of Job. There's some stuff in there that is very questionable theologically, especially in light of the New Testament. Proverbs, Ecclesiastes both have things that I find to be problematic with, their conception of who God is and what's going on. So anyway, yeah.
Well, if that's the case, then I think this week there's a smorgasbord of ideas that you may agree with, disagree with, not have answers for. I did a much deeper dive yesterday and Sunday just because, well, Melanie asked me to be a part of the process and Saturday. So I was you're
an awesome part. Thank you very
online
much.
Your online
you
person.
You look great, Randy. You look great.
It was fun because you guys, every time I saw one of the answers that you were texting, I'm like, oh, that's a really good one. The phone would blow up and 40 more would come in. I'm like, oh, scroll. Which one was it? And so it was very hard to find the ones I was looking for. But before we get all that started, I want to ask Melanie a question because she started something like at the very beginning of her message and she never finished it. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person that noticed.
Oh. And
inquiring minds want to know.
Okay.
All right, here we go. A priest, a rabbi, and an Adventist pastor went fishing.
Yes.
Okay, where's punchline?
Sorry.
What?
I don't have the rest of the story.
You put the worm on the hook and you threw it in and you cast it?
I did, but I would love to hear if other people have a rest of that story. So maybe next week's podcast will be filled with entertaining stories.
Text it to 407-965-1607 or podcast at WholeLife.church and send us your finish to the joke and, well, keep them G-rated if you can, please. And thank you. Yeah. All right. So, Game of Thrones and Monty Python. I was laughing. Someone was walking by and they said hello to me. And I hear you say that in first service and they were asking directions. And I was just about to go on camera, getting ready to go on camera. And I could not pull myself together for the life of me to tell this person what they were looking for. So I felt bad. But after the message, I was like, both of those are pretty good descriptions of if you really start, even just what we went through in the message, which is you did a great job of packing in so much in that short period of time, because as I've gone into a deeper dive,
Was it short?
Oh my goodness.
Well, I'm not the timekeeper and I wasn't
3 minutes over is not a gigantic problem.
I don't know. I mean, it was like I normally get 25 minutes and then there's I did invite her. 33 minutes.
I included the response time.
Yeah, I said you should include because
I feel like
I don't know. I mean,
yeah. I think you should never let me preach ever again.
No,
that's not going to be the answer.
I think the answer when you fail is to try again and do it right. That's what.
Oh, mercy. Wow. Somebody turn
Which,
the
just to
AC
be
down.
clear, for those of you who are listening, I'm not suggesting that the sermon was a fail, but staying on time.
Oh. Well,
And the reason why I have to say this is because I get given a fairly hard time on a fairly regular basis when I go a minute or 2 minutes over my 25 minutes.
Oh,
So.
my grace is a
Abounds.
little bit bigger than 2 or
Really?
3 minutes.
Is it?
It is.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. Well,
I'll tell you, you go over 2 minutes this weekend and we'll see.
I don't know. I feel like I can stay within my time period. It's all right.
Throw
Wow.
down
You
in the
know,
podcast
in the
room.
I've heard about this thing, Lucas. What's it called? That's going on in America all over the place. There's this competition. What's it called?
The World Cup.
Oh, right. I feel like the World Cup vibes have somehow permeated the podcast studio,
This is the WholeLife cup.
and it's on the south side of the
Which
table.
runneth over.
Oh, I don't want you to for a second think that I'm, I'm sure in a World Cup match, Melanie would take me. I just would like to point out
Whoa.
that, that there's occasionally a yellow card that needs to be handed out.
The game would probably be short, right?
Oh, well,
Oh my word.
In her defense, she had like 50s lights, and then she asked me to remove the ton. So
wait a minute. Hang on.
I'm getting it
Wow.
from all. Randy, is there anything you want to toss in my direction?
How many slides were there originally?
40, 50.
How many do you usually do for mine?
Lucas.
Well. I felt that I shouldn't have said nothing.
Mine's usually around about 10 or 15, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that.
I don't know. Like, Lucas, I feel like you're not my favorite anymore.
I am.
I feel like you have just fallen
I
from
was trying to
grace.
come in your defense.
I mean, his name was on the list of people that helped. Mine wasn't.
Oh,
Well, you
wow.
weren't
Were you
there.
left out?
Yeah.
You weren't there.
No, I was
for that
helping
session.
Saturday morning. Didn't they count?
Well, I didn't have time to put your name on the slide Saturday morning.
There wasn't room either. And if there was someone that should have been left off, I'm fine with that. I just figured as long as everybody was piling on, I may as well throw down an extra. You asked.
50
So
slides, Lucas. What did you? You
I'm
must have had a
I'm
busy week
exaggerating.
last week.
No, she finished them. She finished the slides.
I finished the slides
Yeah.
myself. Ken.
Oh.
you did.
I did.
Is that because there were so many of them?
It was because
Does Lucas
there
have a
was some
15,
adjustments that
15
needed to be
slide
made.
limit that
Everything over.
anything past that's on you?
Wow, I didn't
Well,
know.
I guess that is probably policy now in terms of precedent. So, I mean, if we're establishing precedent, I suppose that's probably what it is.
Well, you're giving Lucas expectations.
Yep.
He just called you
To Lucifer.
Lucifer.
He's
Now
mad because his name wasn't in his line.
Oh my gosh. Well, the wedding banquet parable is I went to a couple of I just went to Google and
Randy, can I interrupt you for
Go
1
ahead.
second? Because I feel like as long as people are piling on, I
right.
probably
oh yes, do it.
should go ahead and mention that I got called out online in a text message
What?
as well.
Yeah, we'll put that up send that to me. You did, and I will put that in the
So let me just Joe Mitsuris.
Joe.
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 Parents expect more from a kid named Joe.
He sent me a text message that said, "Not that we fact check sermons. ...
Oh.
Okay.
So we do, is what the ...
Absolutely. That's
means.
exactly
Is that
what
what
that
that means?
means.
Just so I'm clear?
And he
100%.
sent me a picture of a little golden book on Hansel and Gretel and said, "This golden book didn't start with Once Upon a Time."
Oh.
So
Well, I was waiting for the biblical fact check.
I have been called out. And I told him, you know what, go ahead. You should always fact check my sermons. You never know when a preacher is practicing the dark art of deception like I was with my golden book lie this past week. So I'm glad, Joe, that you did your research.
You know what this all means, though. It just means that Melanie needs to preach more often so she can,
Practice. Practice makes perfect.
Not getting those little details
And
wrong.
we enjoy the heck out of it when she preaches.
Oh,
I mean,
Melanie's
podcasts are better,
amazing. Yeah.
right? I mean, we've had we've
numbers
laughed a
go
lot.
up.
Yo.
Well, Ken didn't do sermon rehearsal with me on Friday, so maybe he would have picked up on that.
I offered,
Did you-
but somebody was like, "I have a PhD. I don't need your.
Oh, wow.
I don't need
Wow.
your help."
Wow.
I mean, at least that's what I read between the lines.
For those of you who might just be joining us for the first time, we here at WholeLife our goal is to love people into whole life with God.
Yeah.
And, we do that in a variety of ways. Sometimes
Very
it's just
creative.
laughter and a little, good-natured fun. So everyone here is smiling and laughing. And so it's okay. All right. I know you're
If
back.
the kids are feeling a little uncomfortable at home right now.
Yeah,
because
it's okay. It's
That's
okay.
everybody's happy.
We
everybody's-
all just hugged. We had a group hug just now.
And
It's
Melanie and I
fine.
have coffee and tea, and Lucas has water. Ken had
We're
his at the. What did you have?
Oh man, I had a delicious chai cinnamon crunch something.
There was Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal in that,
There was.
dude.
Wow.
Dr. Drips right down in Ivanhoe Row. It's
You
a
knew
good
we were
place.
going to find a way to weave food into this, right?
I had to. I had
That's a
to.
really cool place, too.
Isn't it great? It's where we do a lot of our Thursday meetings now, and because it's right down the road, so we can get back if we need to.
So, hey, I have to do a shout out now that we're talking about food and things. So, I actually thought about you, Randy, on
Ooh.
Sabbath when we were up in Ocala.
Okay.
We had a really, really wonderful. I'm not sure whether I should mention their names because I don't know whether I haven't asked them for permission, so I won't. But we were invited over to some really lovely people's home for lunch.
Yeah.
And the gentleman in the house said, "Do you like coffee?" And
That sounds like a
then,
trick question.
and then everybody that's there is he asked whether they want coffee or whatever after the meal, and he said, "Do you like coffee?" And I said, "Well," and his wife and some of the other people, oh, he's a master coffee maker. And talking about how good he was and what a great job he does with making coffee. And he has his own very special espresso machine that's very special. And then he said, well, I said, I'll just do whatever you do. And his wife was like, don't do that. She said, don't do that. He's like, it's like,
Just raw espresso?
It's just, she said, you don't drink it. You use a spoon on it.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
Affogato?
yes.
Yes.
Oh, my.
That's a little cup, right?
With the ice cream inside?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No,
Affogato is ice cream
maybe
with...
it's cortado? Is that
cortado? Mhm.
Oh,
Is that like
Yeah.
the little cumin,
Yeah, just-
like very
Yes.
like?
Mm.
So I was like, he's like, well, his wife was like, do you like coffee? Because if you don't, this is going to be brutal for you. It's like, I just want to do whatever he does because I want to be manly. I want to do this. So they brought it. He made it the way he makes it for him. And let me tell you something, Randy. I wished you were there because I don't think I probably properly appreciated it. It was strong. It was like, I think I could have floated in it with,
If it's a
But
little
he
bit,
did it.
if it's when you get a good one like that, it's almost at the edge of like a runny pudding.
Yeah.
It coats your tongue and you're just like, oh yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty manly because I enjoy a good cortado also.
Yes.
So
Is that
Yes.
it?
I
Okay.
think so.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah.
I point out my misogyny in there apparently with
So when did you actually fall asleep?
If I seem a little
Tuesday.
tired, I just walked here from Ocala.
Nice.
So yeah, but I thought of you and I thought we ought to have some sort of coffee off, like
Coffee off.
where we get all the the people who are really good at this together, and we really just have a.
Get your favorite
Whatever.
roast and your favorite prep style and let's go.
But I have
Yeah.
discovered the thing that I learned from this whole experience was I just really like iced sweet.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do a coffee drink, that's what it needs to be.
I know that about you. I know I'm going to get you a matcha. And I'm going to No, didn't you get the
No. Is that the green stuff that tastes like sea
No.
water?
I got
It's
No.
delicious.
the last one I brought you.
It's crazy, bro.
Every time I get one of those matchas, I always think I'm like drinking out of an aquarium.
No.
That's what I feel.
I got him the
I have
Rihanna.
strong opinions, folks. So
I got him the Rihanna from Boston Coffee. That was probably a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
You're like,
No,
that's
that
one
was
of the-
good.
You're like, that's one of the best drinks. That was
That was good. The
a
other one that I like
matcha.
from there is the it has raspberry and it's the Crazy Colonial. That's what
Okay.
they call it. I should definitely go by and pick one up this week since it's 4th of July
There you go.
and our 250th anniversary of our country's founding.
I'm not a sweet person when it comes to coffee, but every once in a while, it doesn't hurt to change it up a little bit. Okay. Well,
discussion.
I may have to get that. I may have to stop by this week now that Ken's recommendation
If
is
the
out
awards
there.
are listening to this, this is also part of our religious show.
That's right.
Talking about food experiences.
There you go. So, Melanie, did you count specifically how many text messages we had?
I did not. I just know that I spent quite a bit of time reading every single one.
The last time
for
I saw
you.
the unread number before I started going through them were the ones that I actually spoke about on Saturday morning during the services, both times, so 4 different times, was 120. So I think there was
seems
probably
about right.
Yeah, there's got to be at least that many.
Yeah.
So what was
That's
the
awesome.
over?
That's
What was
fantastic. Thank you for the participation.
Yes.
I love it.
And again, whoever in first service who tried to call and leave a voicemail from the worship center whispering, that was epic.
I love that.
That's
that was
phenomenal.
that is A+ for effort and an A+ for creativity. So
Did you, standing up front, did you see the person who was doing it, Melanie?
I did not.
Oh,
Nope.
that's too bad.
I don't know.
Excellent.
So what was the overall? Was there anything that surprised you by the responses that you got, or did you anything that went a different way that you're like, oh, I didn't see that one coming?
I don't know that I was entirely surprised. I think my heart was warmed by all the different directions that
Yep.
it went, and all the different ideas that came. So, some people, said, "Oh, wow, that's an interesting way to look at it." Some people said, "Hey, that's not really the way that I would look at it." And so we really had a spectrum of really creative responses. So that was awesome.
So, do you have your chapter of the book written yet?
Not yet. I have to edit it down to the appropriate length.
So, you teased in the sermon that we had talked about this in podcasts. So, for people who didn't listen to last week's, you want to go back and listen to last week's, but go ahead and tell them what this sermon was really all about.
Oh, sure. And actually, it's not an entire chapter. It's part of a chapter.
Oh, okay.
But so I have a colleague in the Academy of Homiletics who's re-releasing his book, Patterns on Preaching. He's expanding it, and then the publisher is republishing it. And one of the patterns that he's adding to his book this time was called progressive dialogue. And so he asked if I would write a sermon for his book. So this is the sermon that I wrote for his book. And that's why I needed so much participation, because this particular sermon style, progressive dialogue, requires a lot of different voices and a lot of participation. So that's why we did it this way. And that's why we did it right in the middle of Ken's series. That's part of the reason we did it right in the middle of Ken's series. It worked out because Ken and Rochelle were preaching at Ocala. So.
That's one of the reasons there.
Well, and when the book comes out, we'll put a link to it. So
Yeah.
if you
Should we
want to
talk
go check
about
it
one
out.
of the ideas that came out of this that you had?
Sure. Yeah. Let's do it.
Do you want to tell? It was your
Yeah,
idea.
go for it.
Go ahead.
So we want your input on this, but Melanie had an idea that we start on a weekly basis having a lunch hour, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, where we call it the workshop. And on Tuesday or Wednesday at like lunchtime, we have a Zoom call and we put the topic that's going to be preached on that week out there. And then we just have a discussion as a group about the different ideas people have about it, what they'd bring to the table, what they hope is talked about in the sermon, maybe what they hope is not talked about in the sermon. Give me things like, hey, can you research into this more? Or maybe you bring research with you and say, oh, I've looked into it and I see this, this, and this. But we kind of have a get together. I think we're tentatively thinking about if we do this, calling it the workshop, in a 1 hour once a week Zoom online get together where we talk about the sermon ahead of time, and just kind of the whole idea that kind of going along with what you were doing of helping give the speaker input as they're finishing up or working on the sermon.
Yeah, I really loved this process, and I loved all, having all the people who participated with me. I felt like it gave the sermon some polyphony, and I thought, oh, that would be really fun. Maybe Ken should do that on a regular basis. So.
I liked it. I like that idea a lot. So let me know what you all think. I think we'd like to hear back from you. So maybe in the Slack channel or one of those other places, just weigh in on whether you think the workshop is something that you'd be interested in seeing happen. And if it did, is it something you'd be a part of? Would you?
I bet there's a couple takers out there.
Yeah.
At least
to hear. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, sounds good. So as I started to dig deeper into this, I went to Google, I went to some AI, different Gemini, went to Chat GPT, and there was as many places as you can search there are as many different ideas as to what this parable means
Yeah.
and what correlations to other parables, other teachings of Jesus, things Jesus said, what people think Jesus meant or what he didn't mean. And
that's why I chose this one, because I knew it would probably generate a lot of possibility. With ones that we've heard a lot, I think there's less possibility for teasing those things out. So,
well, I really like one of the things that I found that I thought was really a couple of just highlights. In first century culture, I was reading that declining a royal banquet wasn't just impolite, it would be a direct insult to the king. So the issue then doesn't mean that people were just too busy for God. It was maybe people rejected a relationship with the king. And that changes the tone a little bit. So it's not about poor scheduling. It's about relational refusal. And that one was kind of like, if we think about it, maybe more modern, God invites us every day into joy, intimacy, just belonging to his family. And a lot of us will respond with just indifference, not oh man, I don't want that. Oh yeah, I think I want that. But indifference, as though it can be like a form of rejection, it's also not buy-in. It's not like, yeah, I am going to take this up on, I'm going to take him up on his offer and I'm going to invest time to, get to know him, hang out.
Well, and it was also kind of a, I wasn't there. This is what I've read
Yeah.
from people who are more familiar with what was happening in first century culture, but apparently it was a two-part invitation. The first invitation was, hey, this is happening.
Yeah.
The second invitation is, hey, it's ready. Come on. So the initial invitation went out, but when it actually came time to come to the feast, that's when the snub happened.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I thought the other part was the banquet was supposed to be about joy. And even though we tend to read it more about judgment, like, well, yeah, obviously they were not with the program. They didn't realize how important it was, didn't realize how much the king wanted them to be there, because even though it comes off as a warning, which it is, but as a wedding feast, it seems that the kingdom is repeatedly portrayed as a celebration, abundance, maybe joy, music, communion, community. So it would maybe seem that salvation isn't merely just a rescue from something, but it's actually an invitation to belong and to celebrate and delight together. And I thought that was really cool, that it's very easy for this, because this is kind of dark. When you read it, like, just read the words, interpret, don't give them a lot of other meaning than just what you're reading in whatever translation. It's like, wow, this is,
As long as you're assuming that the parable is about salvation.
Well, but I mean, we're burning cities for people where, there's some, this is not mostly peaceful rioting. This is like, we're burning the place all the way to the ground over it. And
with an army.
It seems like, there was a good point. Someone said this idea matters because we often subconsciously picture God as reluctant or stern or distant, or I have my thumb on you. But, if you look at it this way, God is hosting the party saying, come on, guys, this is all here for you. I'm waiting. I'm ready.
Right. Again, as long as we're assuming that the king represents God. So we still are kind of moving in that allegorical kind of space. But, but I mean, all these are interesting possibilities.
Sure.
To draw from.
That's one of the things I really enjoyed about the sermon, because I don't really think I'd really kind of drawn the distinction between allegory and parable before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go.
And I thought that was a very interesting take on it. Because we really do, at least the way that I've always gone about working with parables is very much in the allegory. It's a puzzle to be solved. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, we need to figure out who the king is. And there might be more than one potential, but let's try to narrow it down to the one that we think is most likely. And there's a right answer in there. And what I heard you say in the sermon is that maybe that's not the way that parables were designed to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the interesting about that then, is it gives parables the opportunity to flex over time.
Mm-hmm.
So the parable could mean one thing at one time period, another, and not just one time period. It could mean one thing for you. It could mean another thing for me. What do you do with people that are like, well, that's really uncomfortable. Maybe God, how can God have one message for you and another message for me in this?
Well, I think if I were going to compare God to a parent, I have multiple children, and my message for one is going to be different from my message for another, and my message for another. There might be one that I give more freedom to, and one that I give less freedom to, or one that I might remind about this, and another. I mean, it's the same household, it's the same values, it's the same structure, it's the same program, but you engage differently with different people. So I think that God also has that flexibility.
How do you tell the difference between an allegory and a parable?
Well, the ones that are in the Bible that Jesus told are specifically identified as parables, because it says, and then Jesus told a parable, and then the disciples are saying, what does this parable mean?
So there's a Greek word that they could have used that said this is an allegory.
Mm-hmm. Allegory, yeah.
So they had more than one option, and they chose the parable option.
They chose parabole. Yeah.
Interesting.
As we kept going through the whole thing, and again, the whole allegory and parable keeps throwing a different viewpoint as soon as you think you maybe have something figured out or cornered, but then if you think about it from the other direction, maybe not so much.
Well, and also I think it is important to point out that even parables can have allegorical elements. So it doesn't mean that nothing in the parable ever relates to something else. I mean, if you look at the parable of the sower, Jesus says, well, this is this is this, this is this. But then there are still plenty of things to talk about within the parable, like why was the farmer wasting seed by just throwing it every which way? Why didn't the farmer specifically till and prepare the land before planting the seed? I mean, there are all kinds of, and those are parable type questions. So even though you can have, what's that?
I said, ooh, I know the answer to that.
Ooh, pick me.
All right. Take it, Ken.
No, So I think, though, that is one of the things that was for me a little uncomfortable about the sermon is I love a good mystery, but I always assume the mystery is there to be solved, not to just sit. And like I don't know if it's the problem solver part of my personality or what, but I like having answers, and I love a good mystery. Love it. I love movies, books that are but the whole point for me is not to savor the mystery as much as it is to solve the mystery. That's the part that I really love about it.
Sure. Yeah, because there's certainty on the other end of it. And we're most psychologically comfortable when we've arrived at a certainty. So there is a discomfort with sitting in the tension.
Well, and sometimes the certainty seems like I don't want to have certainty because then I come off as maybe think you know it all, huh? Or a little full of yourself. But it's okay to have certainty as long as that's the certainty maybe for the time that you arrive at it, and that there's possibility that your certainty could move later to another certainty.
Then is it still certainty?
Well, so what do we call it? If it's a progressive move, it's maybe not certainty. What is it? I
think it can be called a foothold.
Okay.
This is where I am right now.
That feels good.
I'm still walking. This is where I'm standing right now.
Yeah.
So it can almost be a snapshot. But I think one of the key things, and I mentioned this a little bit, but I had like 60 pages of notes that had to be condensed down into a very, very
and 45
short,
or 50 slides.
3-minute sermon, apparently. But if we look at the way that the Jewish people read Scripture, especially in Jesus' time, and then also thereafter, we look at the Talmud, we look at the Midrash, and we have generations of people who have come to the text and have added their own ideas, and then they added their disagreements, and they even preserved the disagreements. There was something called, and I don't remember the Hebrew for this, but it basically is something to the effect of argument for the sake of the kingdom, or disagreement for the sake of the kingdom. And they actually preserved the disagreements itself without arriving at an end point. Okay, they disagreed on this, but here's where we landed. They just preserved the disagreement. And the idea was, first of all, that none of us singularly can have the answer, but that we come together in lots of different voices, and maybe there's truth that's reflected when all of us come together. And there is such a thing as, holy disagreement.
Yeah.
And you're kind of walking the same sacred ground and having the same conversation. And one of the things that I read, when I was doing some research on this actually for my dissertation, because I was looking at different ways to approach the scripture from a metamodern viewpoint, and several scholars have actually pointed out that one of the things that Christianity lost and didn't take with it from its Jewish roots was this idea that interpretation is ongoing and it doesn't stop. It just, the next generation will have this and the next generation will have this, and this conversation doesn't ever have to end. Whereas with Christianity, when people changed their viewpoint to Jesus is coming soon, then all of a sudden they're added an urgency to that. Well, we have to hurry up and get it right. We have to find the answer before Jesus comes, because this is really important. It's imperative for us to find
our
this.
salvation
For our
depends
salvation
on
is
it.
at stake. Yes.
Yeah.
So in our hurry to get it right before Jesus comes, we lost that wonder and that awe and that sitting with the text and just letting the text continue to speak differently even over generations. So I wonder if maybe it would be so great to recover some of that and not feel like, okay, there's something in here that I'm supposed to solve, I'm supposed to get, and I better hurry up and get it right because I don't have much time left. And I think that when you look at a God who's eternal, like, why are we putting a time limit on something like that, like an exploration?
Well, and one of the things that I read that I found interesting that you just kind of hit on, and this is, again, assuming that the parable is the parable, it's not an allegory. The invitation continues to expand, and it goes from, the city, the streets, everyone. Banquet keeps expanding, and God's kingdom is always wider than religious people expect. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was... and, many invited, few chosen isn't meant to create anxiety. It's really what comes down to, am I invited? And then what am I doing with the invitation? Like, okay, we can argue and we can all come to different points of, we're going to disagree on what this means or what that means. And
can I ask a question really quick? And I don't know, Randy, if you're planning on coming around to this at the end, but if you are,
yeah, go ahead.
Just,
we'll just take yours first.
And slice it out and put it at the end. But I was curious, Melanie, you were very intentional about not giving answers in the sermon. Mm-hmm. So awesome. So I am curious, though, what is your personal take and on the meaning of that parable to you? So
the way that I see it as so multi-layered, and there are so many possibilities in there that I don't want to land on just one. I really, really enjoy the exploration of, it could be this. And if it were this, then what? Yeah. And it could be that. And if it were that, then what? And so, and it's kind of fun, I think, to put yourself in every single character position. What am I the one that's snubbing the invitation? And why would I snub an invitation to something so cool? Like, what would make me do that? Or maybe I'm, the slave that's headed out to let people know that it's ready, and how do I deliver that? And how is it important to me how that is received? And what hill am I willing to die on? Am I the person who shows up and, has the wrong clothing on and is silent? Like, if I were going to put words in his mouth, it almost feels like the parable turns around and hands the microphone to you. Like, all right, he's silent. What would you say? And so then I have to ask myself, I might, would I try to explain myself? Would I say, hey, do you have anything that I could wear? I'm sorry, this is what I was wearing when I came in. This is all I have. What conversation would I have had with the king? And I think there are so many different perspectives and so many different things that you could learn or ponder or wonder about when you look at it from so many different angles, that I think I would do myself a disservice if I landed and said, this is it.
I'm going to try again, Randy, because the reporter in me can't let a dodge happen.
That wasn't a dodge.
I know it wasn't a dodge, but I do. But what does that? But if I were to sit there and say, okay, I don't think the parable has to mean one thing, but I do think that parables are speaking to me today and telling me something. Mm-hmm. in the moment that there's something. My question really is for Melanie Bockmann, what's that sermon? What's that parable's big takeaway today for you?
I think if I were just going to draw something out of the air.
Just for you. Just for
me?
If when you read that story today, you're like, this is my spiritual takeaway for me today. And if you don't want to, if you're like, Ken, leave that alone. That's fine.
I mean, that's the part that's difficult, because again, I would have to land on something and say, this is the thing. But if I were going to just pull something out of the air, I might ask myself questions about who I would want to be seated around that table. Because honestly, there are people that I would love that are on the outside of that table that I would love to draw in. And there are other people who are sitting at the table that I think, why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think maybe I have to question my own judgment about who I think is worthy to sit at that table and who I'm willing to sit at the table with.
I love it. That's great.
Okay.
Well, I'll say the one thing that, Ken, we need to let you go, correct? Okay. One thing I will say that maybe out of all the different things I read, one of the most hotly contested ideas is about who you mentioned, the person without the clothes.
Ah, yes.
And a popular idea was that during that time that the host would provide garments for that person, if it was a royal, whether it was a dinner for dignitaries or just for whoever, if it was a celebration, that there would be, if they didn't have the proper attire, a proper attire would be provided for you. Mm-hmm. And that this was really aimed at not so much the sinners, but the obvious sinners, but those that felt themselves, like you said, like, why are they at the table?
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe it was invited more towards that. And it says that it means the greatest danger in the parable isn't about rebellion from outsiders, it's presumption from insiders. And their take was, you can be invited, you can be near religious things, familiar with kingdom language, and still miss the feast. And then the silence of the improperly dressed guest matters. When questioned, the guest says nothing. There's no defense, there's no explanation, just silence. And this was their take on it. This suggests that he knows. He's exposed. It isn't confusion. It's willful disregard. That silence becomes powerful symbolism, and eventually appearances collapse. Reality is revealed. And that was just one of, like, when you look into that, and I was like, bro, that's part of the, like, well, we're not trying to scare anyone with this. And it's like, well, but then it's also, even if that's not what it is, it's something to think about, to
Absolutely.
Say, is that what I do? Was I invited and I just didn't care enough to do the small things that would have said, man, I thank you for inviting me. And, man, like you said before, man, do you have something I could wear? Mm-hmm. And those are the questions. And so again, I get where you're coming from. I know Ken's always going to try to press it a little bit further, but I don't feel like I have to answer all these, but what I enjoyed so much was that no matter what you believe, each statement, whether this was what Jesus meant or not, they all cause self-reflection. Mm-hmm. You have to look at these and then go, what if it does mean that? Like you said, what does that change in me, if anything? But sometimes when it hits and you feel the mirror kind of starting to slowly turn your direction and you're like, that was Rudy. Sorry. Thanks, Rudy, for getting my feelings out. I'm a little nervous because that feels like a piece of clothing that fits. Mm. And I don't like that it fits.
Yeah.
So I think at least being open to the idea of, I don't know for sure, but boy, that one hits more home, and maybe trusting that as you're investigating, it's one of those things. It's like just hanging out with God and listening to what he has and what might be there, and just the not making it all necessarily black or white, but living in that gray area. And what can I learn? And I
like to think of that as the possibility.
Yeah, the possibility. Thank you.
Living in the tension, sure, but also living in the possibility.
I love that because honestly, since the message, I mean, it was fun to be in the lobby and to read people's comments and to kind of get the vibe was people were smiling when they left. And a lot of people came up to me and said, "Oh, that was so much fun. That was great. I love that you guys are trying to be creative and include us. And it was so much fun." And you guys clearly showed up with all of the text messages and the voicemail.
Well, and speaking of which, I have to do a shout out to our drama team who enacted the parable for us. That was so much better than me just reading it.
Did anyone get a picture of Danny in the crown? Because
well, we have it on the video, so I'm sure that we could I'm sure that Lucas could screenshot that.
Definitely. If you know what, if you missed this message, please go back and get it because it was a very what's the word I'm looking for? It was very intentional in the way that Melanie laid out each point so that it just kept building on each other. And then the participation aspect twice within the message. And then we like to wrap things up in a nice little bow and go, all right, now go love your world because we've given you information to arm you to go do that. And here, I don't know if we armed you with any information, but what I hope we did was arm you with curiosity and a spirit of, I wonder what God has for me through this, because this was a fun message and all the different pieces I could think of to come at this from as many ways as possible. And there were so many possibilities that were so much fun. I will never look at this the same way ever again as a parable, an allegory, a combo, whatever it is. For sure, it was. I'll never look at it the same for sure. All right, Lucas, we had 2 questions, right?
Yes.
Even with all the text messages, how did that happen?
I know, right?
What do we got?
Yeah. Okay, so first question. Some truths are not learned, they are wrestled with. I really like this statement. Could you explain the idea behind it once again? Also, would you say this is generally true, or is it better understood as a metaphor rather than a factual statement?
Well, I think it is definitely a metaphor. Because obviously it's not a physical wrestling. It's more of a thoughtful wrestling. But I think that Israel, the word Israel means wrestles with God, and I think it's so interesting that God named people. First of all, named the patriarch, but then thereafter the children of Israel, people who wrestle with God. And if that was their moniker, and also their experience throughout, the history of what is recorded, why can't we be a people who wrestle with God? And I think there are lots of examples of people who do that, people who ask questions, people who push back, and God says, let's reason together. Let's talk about this.
It seems expected.
Right. Yeah. I think that if God wanted, robots, God would have created robots,
God could have written the Bible himself, literally.
Right. And it would have been a whole lot more clear.
Exactly.
But yet for some reason, God says, I'm engaging with you. Now you go write down how you experienced this. And that leaves a whole lot of ambiguity. And so if God is comfortable with the ambiguity,
why can't we be?
Why can't we be comfortable with the ambiguity?
I hate ambiguity sometimes. But I think, I hope you guys are picking up on this because we talk about this a lot on the podcast, maybe not always in the same direct language as we are today, but it's okay to wrestle with whatever it is, even if your spouse, your parents, your best friend, yourself, your former, what do we call it? Your former point where this was absolute, but you've moved on from that. It's okay to question it. And I think if we quit questioning things that make us uncomfortable, things that we just assume we know, then we lose the wonder about God and what could be.
Yeah.
Because in what could be is not, I feel like more so than ever, what could be might be the best relational builder with God that we have instead of, but Melanie, oh man, you were so close. And if you'd have stuck with the point where you said this is fact, man, you were there. But you went further, and it wasn't me that was prompting you to do that. That was just you doing whatever. So I'm sorry, no heaven for you.
Yeah.
And that I feel like we grew up that way, but I feel like, man, it's so empowering to be able to say, what if?
Well, and I think maybe God knows us well enough to know that we like certainty and we like to control things. And so if the answer was there and the answer was clear and we could box it up and control it, I mean, we still try to do that with the ambiguity. We try to find the certainty in it and box it up and then sell it or
beat people to death with
people with it or whatever. When actually, I think maybe in a way, maybe God is saving us from ourselves by forcing the ambiguity. I mean, when Jesus was even talking, you've heard it said, but I say to you. And sometimes what he said, was outrageous. If you are angry at somebody, you may as well have murdered them. What kind of statement is that? If you look at someone lustfully, you may as well have committed adultery. Wow. I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe that's not quite the same thing, but Jesus said it. So let's think about what he was talking about and why he would say that and why was he taking the things from the Old Testament that had been laid out clearly, apparently, and then saying, yeah, you've heard this, but now we're going to look at it this way. And that tells me that why can't we do that with everything? Maybe there is all of that possibility in there where God is saying, you've heard this all your life.
Yeah.
And now I want you to see it like this. Now you've lived this season of your life looking at it this way. And now I'm saying this to you. There's so much possibility there that makes it so interesting and so much fun. And I think that God is this wide ocean. You're never going to swim the length of it. You're never going to plumb the depths of it, and everywhere you go, it looks different. And I feel like that is kind of a metaphor for God. There's more than we can ever possibly imagine.
If it's good enough for Jesus, can it be good enough for us?
I would hope so. Yeah.
I have a question. Is there a level of danger in asking too many questions that can lead us to maybe very problematic conclusions that might not be what God intended us to?
Like what?
I don't know. Maybe you're looking at a parable and you start asking some questions and you completely go astray. You completely, land in a conclusion that this is not what God, intended you to be thinking about.
I think there is always that possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But if God is comfortable with that possibility existing, and if I am comfortable always with learning, even if I end up in the wrong spot, if I'm still listening, I can still learn and I can still move. I don't know. I see God as being big enough to handle it. And for so much of my life, the space that you could occupy that was the correct space was so tiny.
Mm-hmm.
And once I kind of figured out that I'm in the palm of God's hands and God's hands are really big, that I can explore all over that.
Nice.
And I never have to worry about being outside of God's hands as long as I'm still listening and open and I want to be there. So I don't know. I think that there are ways that people can, one of the indications I think is if you take something from that parable and you feel like it gives you license to go damage someone
Mm-hmm.
else. I feel like that seems to me to be a no-brainer. But, if that I guess could be an adverse reading that could cause harm.
But are you still connected if that's the...
I'm not sure.
I just, the more I go through this, the more I think to myself, is there a real way that, like you said, as long as we're connected and as long as we're communicating and our heart is searching, there's nothing salvation-wise that we're putting ourselves in danger from, I don't feel like.
Well, this is what is so interesting to me. When you read the Gospels, it's all about, Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. And then he tells lots of stories. And the closer he gets to the end of his ministry, the more stories he tells. Instead
Yeah.
of making it clear, he tells more stories. And
That's true.
so we go from Jesus talking about acceptable behavior and acceptable treatment of other people and himself as the way, the truth. And then a few hundred years later, just like 300 or 400 years later, we end up in the Nicene Creed, and it's all about what you believe.
Mm.
Do you believe this set of things? Okay, that defines you, instead of who are you? And what is your relationship with God? And how do you treat people? And how do you engage? And I feel like something was lost in there as well. We have taken Christianity and turned it into a set of beliefs, and that is the defining factor, instead of who you are and your relationship and the exploration and the growing and the learning and the questioning and the curiosity and the exploration. And I would love to see us go back toward what Jesus was talking about,
Yeah, absolutely. All right, last question, right?
Yes. Is Jesus saying that he uses parables because he wants us to work to understand? This is basically where we're.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I'll say what I kind of alluded to earlier. If we assume that we can only end up in one right place, I think that can feel like a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Do I think Jesus wanted us to work to find the answer? I don't think so. Do I think that Jesus wants us to sit with the questions and let the questions feed us and cause us to open our minds even more? Then yeah, I think that's the kind of work that Jesus wanted us to do with the parables.
It just seems like there's so often we take what he says and we apply it somehow to our time frame, which everybody does or everybody has since he was here on this earth. But also, if we seem to forget that it doesn't need to go into a hole in the wall that fits with our theology. More so like, oh, well, you're an Adventist, you're a Baptist, you're a Lutheran, you're a Methodist. And so whatever he said has to fit within your holes, instead of more of this needs, he already told you. And so maybe less worrying about how we feel the things that we've grown up with that feel like they need something, instead of saying, what was, like, investigating here, like, what was Jesus really telling us with this? Yes, it's being prepared. Yes, it's accepting the invitation, but there's so many small things that could be maybe just a little. And like I said, I won't look at this the same again, just from spending a couple hours digging through this, because I was too curious.
And how fun was that?
It was a ton of fun. And I feel like I'm closer to Jesus after that than sometimes after a half an hour of prayer. You know what I mean? Because sometimes prayer, I mean, I enjoy prayer, but sometimes it's a subconscious thing that I think works really well. Other times it's a thought process where, man, there's so much going on in my world that I need to talk. And then I know you're listening. Holy Spirit is telling you what I can't tell you. Mm-hmm. And there's all those things. But this makes me more curious than nearly anything else, is spending time not only reading the actual Bible, in the parable, the whole, both Luke and Matthew, mm-hmm. but then just, like so many people before us have done the same thing that we're doing. And like you said, going back to that curiosity and letting part of that guide where God wants you to go, that feels sometimes more like leading and us following. And the other sometimes when I pray feels more like me leading and expecting him to follow.
Yeah. And the thing that I think resonates with me is, answers don't require trust.
Yeah.
They don't require faith. They don't require vulnerability. The mystery requires faith and trust and vulnerability. And I think God wants us to be open to the mystery, because that's where things like faith and doubt and curiosity, come alive.
Look at some of the things that have been done in our world based on the truth.
Right.
because there's nothing left to know. This is it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just going to execute that plan based on this.
And execute is a key word, because if you don't believe the right thing throughout history,
Somehow, yeah.
a lot of people have been actually executed. Yeah.
So I think there's, not to say that we can't search for truth and we can't hold on to things that we believe deep in our heart
Sure.
as moral guidelines, compass points,
Footholds.
footholds, things that we pass down to our kids or to our church family, our community, things like that. But always leaving room for, I could be wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and just being a little more humble that way.
Yeah.
Man, guys, don't miss this message. I promise you. And I'll challenge you. If you guys just use whatever you use to do research and just, but put in things like, I asked a couple of questions, like, there's no way this is a true parable. This is an allegory. This is a parable. I don't believe that this was meant to be taken literally. Like, I used some odd prompts to get some of the information that came back. And I don't know what I believe about all of it, but all I know was it was fun. It was fun to think about. And there was a few things that, again, changed my mind about what I believe this parable is about, or this whatever. And it was really good, and it was well worth the time. And so take a moment and dig in and see what you come up with, and see if there's anything that makes you go, wasn't thinking about that. So as always, we, those that are waiting for Melanie's podcast, that here's a little peek into what could become more and more often. So, all right, this week it is back to our favorite things. Do we know the verse? Do you know the verse?
It is Deanna's favorite verse.
Oh, that's
Actually,
right.
It comes from Hebrews, and I believe it is Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever.
That's the one. Yes.
Approximately. Yeah. It's a
Cool.
paraphrase there.
So we've got everything from Deanna already. Ken, I'm sure, and Tuesday afternoon is already into prep for getting this done. So hopefully, he did mention before we started taping, he hopes Deanna won't be disappointed if he ruins her verse for her. But you never know what'll happen. So definitely tune in and catch that next week. And man, again, thank you guys for listening. I mean, we are closing out the month strong. We are headed towards a big month in listenership and downloads. And so thank you again for all that you do, listen and share. And we will be back next week with Ken in our favorite things. Catch Melanie's message. Anything else? Oh, today, I'm going to make this the last thing. If today is Tuesday, it is June 30th. At some point today, our old giving platform will be turned off. They did not give us a time. It was between 12 a.m. midnight and 11:59 p.m.
So by the time you hear this,
it will have already been closed. So if you're like, oh, shoot, I was going to do that. In the show notes today, I will give you a link to the give page. It's going to be all updated. The old information is going to be gone. So you can't even log in there because there's nothing to log into. It is closed. So the give page is all different, changed, and it'll be the tutorial video PDF will still be there. Walk it through, put it on your phone, be on your laptop or your iPad or your tablet right next to each other, and it'll just walk you through step by step. Super easy.
doesn't get any easier than that, I don't think.
Lucas did it in under 30 seconds this week during announcements. So
Nice
I know that you can do it.
Nice job.
Yeah. So don't forget that. And as always, we appreciate your unwavering support all the time through your church budget and offerings, which support everything we do, including the podcast here at WholeLife Church. So guys, thanks for listening. Have a great week. Thanks for listening to This is WholeLife. If today's conversation resonated with you, we invite you to subscribe, share, and leave a review on your favorite listening platform. To join the conversation, send a text or voicemail to 407-965-1607 or email podcast@wholelife.church. To learn more about WholeLife Church, worship with us online or in person, visit our website, wholelife.church. Until next time, this is WholeLife.